Before we crack on with today's episode, I thought I would address a very important concern regarding this very show. You see, the Jimquisition has been around in some form or other for almost 10 years, almost a decade of hot chat and spicy takes, and not once, not ever, in all the years we've been doing this, have we done a musical episode. And won't be doing that today. Anthem is the new big thing in video games, certainly a massive game release, possibly a disaster of one depending on your outlook. With mediocre reviews and more bad press than good, Anthem has not been off to a great start. It's a boring game, to be honest, one that wastes players' time with repetitive content and far too much time spent flying around doing nothing or standing around doing nothing. It's generic, it's cynical, and it's a desperate bid on EA's part to have its own mega popular live service going toe-to-toe with the likes of Warframe, Destiny, Fortnite, and even its own Apex Legends, which EA didn't promote because it was scared of people hating it. But it's way better than Anthem and has about as compelling a fucking narrative. Also, EA had less to do with it than it did any of its other games recently, and it's one of the best things EA's put out in recent years, go fucking figure. We're still talking about Apex there, not Anthem, because Anthem is interminably dull. When you're not stuck waiting for farcically lengthy loading screens to wrap up, you're wondering what the point of it all is. Why should we care about a story that relegates most of itself to encyclopedia entries that you're expected to read up on rather than learn about organically through play? Why should we find the combat engrossing when it's firing bog-standard weapons against passé alien archetypes? And why on earth would anyone find constant games of hot and cold even mildly entertaining? Just hot and cold scavenger missions all the time. Hot and cold scavenger hunts are the worst part of any game that doesn't have escort missions. Oh, and fuck the ever so slight delay that happens when you press the matchmaking button. Just long enough to make you think the button didn't register, so you press it again just in time for it to cancel matchmaking. But anyway, we're not here to review Anthem, thank Christ. We're here for an Anthem hot take. Ooh, hot. Here's the thing about Anthem though, right? The internet is filling up with hot takes about whether or not the game is good, what it means for live service games overall, what it means for Bioware's future, and I feel entitled to a slice of that action too. I want to join in the fun of it. I want my Anthem hot take, my Anthem think piece, but Anthem is just too dull. It's not an exciting game. It never was an exciting game. Go back and watch that dreary E3 presentation that was just flying about and a bit of concept art. And while they might one day make it exciting, I don't intend to stick around and find out because it bored the cum out of me, and I've got far more important things to do. Hey, Barnaby, you better give me that fox. Give me that. Give me that fox. Give it to me. Give it. Give it, give it, give it, give it. More interesting and tenuously related is the news that Electronic Arts kicked off mass layoffs a week after Activision Blizzard notoriously jettisoned near 800 staff members. Because the AAA game industry is totally healthy and there's nothing fucked up or wrong at all, is there? Up to 50 people lost their jobs at Firemonkeys, a studio in Australia, because it's being restructured for, you guessed it, live service development. Yep, a market that's already struggling to sustain itself and is utterly crowded with wannabes, Anthem included, and has only room for a few major success stories like the aforementioned Warframe, Destiny, Fortnite, and yes, even Apex Legends. At a time where publishers are collapsing under their own rapid growth and the microtransaction-led, perpetually online service bubble may be about to burst, EA thought now was the right moment to pivot a studio to exactly that. And what, create more competition for itself in the market? It's already got Anthem and Apex Legends on the go right now, to say nothing of what it might be attempting to do with Battlefield 5. How much does one company want to saturate a market, to say nothing of all the other companies doing it? And EA laid off around a quarter of Firemonkeys to achieve its latest goal, around a quarter. And people are expected to keep working to their best ability under that detrimental blow to morale? Are they really? Developers are expected to be creative and artistic in an industry that's constantly threatening their job security and routinely disposing of their colleagues. That is no environment in which people can work their best, and I can speak from experience on this. People need to be worrying about making good games, not whether or not they'll be able to make games at all tomorrow. This latest employee cull occurred mere hours after ArenaNet revealed it was preparing layoffs of its own, because this industry is completely healthy and everything's fine. According to reports, the reason for these layoffs, and this is almost too perfect in the worst way, is that ArenaNet's struggling to survive in the live service market, the very market EA is pivoting towards. Granted, ArenaNet also noted that its own so-called live games are pretty old now, but it's still an interesting thing to note that EA's getting rid of people to take up more live game real estate at the same time ArenaNet's telling staff its business in the live service market is literally unsustainable. More crucially than any of that though is the stone-cold fact that game developers should unionize game developers, because fuck this industry and the reckless way in which it saturates markets, indulges in predatory monetization, and treats hardworking employees like disposable farm animals. But hey, Anthem came out and sucks. Mass Effect Andromeda was better. I mean, in terms of polish, stability, and overall competence, Andromeda is grossly inferior, but at least you could laugh at some of the weird glitches. It had that. Anthem is competently put together, but all the more wearisome for it. It's way more intriguing to talk about Xbox VP Mike Ybarra whining as he did over negative reviews for Anthem. We've seen developers flip out over criticism of their games before, and it's often pathetic, but this is an executive, one who doesn't even work for Electronic Arts. Amazed at their whining, Mike Ybarra whined. One reviewer, not the below, reviewed the game, yet in the review cited that he didn't even know how to do a combo. Embarrassing to review with such a lack of knowledge. Yeah, the combo system in Anthem is very poorly explained in-game and is something best read up on, but even if it wasn't, for an executive at Microsoft to cry over reviews and essentially trot out the gatekeepy "get good" line is a shockingly bad look, and as VG247 quite rightly pointed out, Microsoft has an exclusive marketing deal with Anthem, a money-fueled bias which Ybarra has done nothing to counter. So, a fucking a literal corporate shill told reviewers to get good and urged people to listen to live streams instead of reviews, presumably because they'd be far less critical of a game that deserves pretty much only criticism. It's very telling that he kept putting reviews in quotes to delegitimize the entire concept of them, surely nothing to do with the game's middling Metacritic score, right? Hours later, Ybarra would try and qualify his derision toward reviews by stating that they should be read too. Oh yeah, read your favourite reviewers, but it did look like a weak attempt to soften what was clearly hostility toward video game critique. If you genuinely respect a medium, you don't put it in quotes sarcastically. That's why I always put AAA in quotes, because I don't respect it. And look, I'm sorry Microsoft's first-party games are so thinly spread and that Crackdown 3 was such utter shit that the Xbox VP may be desperately glomming onto anything, even something so pedestrian as Anthem, to make the Xbox One look appealing. But having a whinge about negative reviews and then pouring scorn on the medium as a whole has historically never worked out for industry spokespeople, and certainly did nothing to make Anthem look good.
When the rainy days are dying, gotta keep on trying. All the bees and birds are flying.
Speaking of reviews, there's also the controversy regarding allegations that EA had a sponsored review of the game taken down because it was too negative. YouTube critic GGman Lives is part of EA's Game Changers sponsorship, but the lengthy critique was removed after its publication and re-uploaded with the Game Changers watermark and overall association with EA removed. Unichronic Arts has insisted this was about inadequate disclosure in the video and nobody has been blacklisted. GGman Lives, however, contests that it was the criticism itself that irked the company, claiming he wasn't allowed to associate his video with EA's program if it contained negative comments. Now, all I know for sure is that EA does indeed refuse to send copies to people whose review scores cannot be accurately predicted. In case you've forgotten, I've been unable to secure review copies from EA in the past because, as a PR firm working with them put it, I'm a wild card whose reviews cannot be relatively guaranteed as positive. Sometimes publishers do get a little nervous when it comes to the unpredictability of some reviewers, I was told at the time. So at times these publishers opt to remove the wild cards from the equation. The game involved in this particular conversation was Battlefield 1, a game 47 Publishing had planned to send me before I was removed from the equation. So yeah, EA is among the publishers who most certainly cultivate their reviewers in an attempt to skew perception. I long ago gave up getting review copies from most publishers or even trying to deal with them on any level, this cultivation being among the many reasons. I'm not saying what's right or wrong in the Anthem case, I can only speak from my own experiences, and my own experiences tell me that a number of publishers such as EA do all they can to control the message up to and including reviews, and that shouldn't be surprising to anyone. Now, it might sound like I'm bringing up loosely associated controversies as a meandering thing, maybe to point out that Anthem is so boring I'd rather talk about anything else, but I have a driving point to all of this, and it is sort of the fact that all of those controversies really were more interesting than Anthem, even if for the wrong reasons. And while people were being accused of boarding an Anthem hate train even before one of its many release dates, the truth of the matter is there's nothing more entertaining about Anthem than the shit show around Anthem. All the peripheral shit, the rumination on Bioware's future, the game's ridiculously convoluted release dates and pre-orders and EA Access subscription offers, the complaining about reviews, the allegations, they're all deeper and more engaging than Anthem itself. And now we wrap this all up into a nice little package for you. You see, Anthem's conga line of humiliation is familiar. This is the situation Fallout 76 found itself in as well. It's a threadbare, broken, second-rate live service attempt that lacks content, story, or pre-release interest, surrounded by tales of what an embarrassing circus the whole thing is. Anthem, despite being a better product than Fallout 76 and having more content to be fair, is in the exact same position for the same reasons. The games themselves are undistinguished trash, failing to ignite a fire of hype they'd hoped to build on kindling consisting of a pile of dog food and some twigs. But the dismal disasters and spicy takes orbiting these dumpster fires have us hooked. Indeed, bagging on Fallout 76 and now Anthem has become a cottage industry, and I'm gladly part of it. It's some of the most popular content out there. People don't care about these games, but they care about everything around them. And the real kicker here is that I feel this is all by design. Not the negative stuff, clearly companies like EA and Bethesda would rather us praise these games, but I mean the games being so uninspired that we would rather indulge in controversy instead appears to be a side effect of the live service bandwagon. After all, so many games have launched without compelling content, only for those who stuck with it to say it's good now, months or years later. For Honor, Destiny 2, Warframe, all games that failed to spark the imagination initially, but eventually grew into something that fans could identify with, and only Warframe managed to get completely free of its ignoble past. The market is swelling with too many games that have too much riding on them, and they're being hurried out the door to try and make some cash before the live service craze has been fully strip-mined. These games are being cobbled together to meet the bare minimum expectations of a modern video game and not much more than that, with an eye toward filling in the glaring blanks later. This is where patch culture, the idea of releasing broken games and fixing them after launch with patches, was leading us. As Dan Stapleton accurately put it, companies have a false sense of security now, believing no matter how shit the launch, they can make it all better. Publishers only care about launching the product, get it out there, get people spending money on it. Actually making a good game in the first place, that's not even a secondary requirement anymore, and if it was, it would be a distant second. In past episodes, I've talked about the concept of early triple access, where a major so-called AAA game is released with a ton of missing features, like an early access game, except these are meant to be finished products. At least they fucking charge for them like they are. Star Wars Battlefront 2015, Street Fighter V, these were games launched with the belief that you can rush a product out now and it'll turn out all right in the end. So long as you have what publishers call a roadmap, everything will be fine. Fucking road maps. Never mind what's down the fucking road, we're parked at a service station right now and they've got no fucking sandwiches. Some games have managed to turn it around successfully, and maybe even Anthem will still be a mega success commercially, if not critically or creatively, but we still live in a world where first impressions count for something. Sod the roadmap. If we're nowhere right now, I don't care where you think we'll be later. And if publishers insist on releasing games that have a void of content, we will will take it upon ourselves to fill that void, which we've done in today's hot Anthem take. A take focused instead on layoffs, review controversies, and straightforward mockery, because talking about Anthem is sure as shit more fun than playing it. Jonathan, hear me out. We are going to make you famous again, just like you've always wanted.
But I don't want to be famous.
Jonathan, shut up and put on the mesh tank top.
Tell me what the matter is, tell me what the matter is, tell me what the matter is.
I don't want to.
Regarding Bioware's future, who can say? I've been dreading for a while that Anthem would be Bioware's Battlefield Hardline moment. That was a game that Visceral Studios made, a game that wasn't really in their wheelhouse given their general work revolved around the Dead Space franchise. It wasn't very good, and no one expected it to be good. It had no hype behind it, and then they were put onto different projects with Visceral, the Star Wars project, and eventually they were closed down, which is something I predicted quite a while before it happened, because the writing is just on the wall. It seems to be a bit of a routine with EA in terms of how it acquires and then destroys, I guess, any potential competition, because again, this is something it seems to do by design. It's not an accident that Unichronic Arts, as we call it here, habitually swallows up studios, twists them beyond recognition, and then shutters them. It is an eater of worlds, is Electronic Arts, quite, I was going to say quite literally, but not sort of literally, because video games are their own worlds, and not literally, but you get what I mean. Bioware, unlike Visceral, still has a saving throw. Visceral didn't have another Dead Space to fall back on. Bioware potentially has a Dragon Age to fall back on, but we'll see how it goes. Anthem may still very well make money. I know Electronic Arts cares a lot about Metacritic scores, because that still has an inordinate amount of influence on the industry, and the scores for Anthem have been terrible, very mediocre reviews, so we'll see what happens. I will say that I'm worried about Bioware. I won't call I won't ring their death knell just yet, but I would say they're on eggshells at the moment, as any studio really is once they sign themselves over to EA. Sorry to break it to you, Respawn. Huge fan of your work, actually. Loved Titanfall 2 especially, and a very pretty addicted player by now to Apex Legends, but, thank God for me, and you're fucked.
Everybody's thinking about me.